This is one in a series of videos that explores the 6 essential components of Colorado's multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. These 6 components support the Colorado Department of Education's goal of every student, every step of the way. In this segment, we'll look at data-based problem solving and decision-making, which is the process used by stakeholder teams from multiple settings, such as home, school, community, to analyze and evaluate information related to planning and implementing effective instructional strategies matched to student need. MTSS is not a quick series of steps that reaches a completion, but rather involves a continual problem-solving process of defining the need, analyzing the need, implementing plans, and evaluating outcomes.
The beauty of a multi-tiered system support is not only is it addressing multiple needs, but it is relying on the use of data to adjust instruction to ensure that students are making the outcomes, to making the progress that we need.
The MTSS model really stresses the importance of using information for decision making. And to be more concrete about that, what that looks like, for example, could be at every faculty meeting, the principal says, here's what our office discipline referral looked like for the last month, and starts that out by using as a way to say what our discipline culture looks like. And as they proceed through the agenda for the faculty meeting, all the faculty in the back of their heads have an idea about, oh my gosh, we have lots of teasing going on in the hallway. How do we think about that with respect to our agenda for the faculty meeting? So the principal provides the discipline data on a regular basis for review. It also could occur at grade level team meetings, for example. And the grade level team meetings might get together, and the first thing they pop up is their literacy data, for example, and they throw that on the table and they say, here's how our kids are doing over the last 6 weeks. And I'll use a very concrete example. We might have a school that uses a curriculum-based measurement system like Ames Webb or Dibbles or something, and they say, 45% of our kids are reading at benchmark right now on this particular skill, but we have a few kids right now that are not. So then they use that information at the grade level team meeting to say, how do we tweak our lesson plans for teaching reading? You might have a department level meeting at a high school, and at that high school they're saying, look at our data for our 9th graders. Oh my gosh, our 9th graders in our science house, we have about 25% of our kids who are showing up late to class. In our science curriculum, how are we going to make sure, or in our classes, how do we make sure we deal with attendance? So attendance might be the variable that they're looking at for their science lessons, but they know that if the kids don't show up in time, it interferes with their ability to get the lesson started on time, which interferes with their ability to get through the curriculum. So they're using their data as a way to guide those decisions. How do you get there? How do you pick the smallest number of interventions to have the biggest effect? Well, the problem-solving model is intended to do that. And the way you do that is you say, what data do we have that defines the problem? And then we say, what intervention has the best promise for achieving that outcome based on those data? What is the intervention that will deliver the best outcome that matches that data that we're concerned about? So if we have a school where bullying behavior is a big concern, and bullying is teasing on the bus, we want to make sure that the problem-solving team or the leadership team or whatever uses that information to pick the best bully intervention, bully prevention intervention that will affect bullying on the bus, teasing and harassment. Because most of the time we just pick large comprehensive interventions, which they might be evidence-based, but they may not address that specific concern. That's just an example. I mean, you could generate that around social skills for different problem solving, for self-management. You could talk about it for reading comprehension or decoding. You can do the same kind of logic. We want to pick interventions that align with what the data suggests are most important. So the way to think about this, again, the best way to think of it, I think, is to say, what's the smallest number of things that we can invest in that will promise the delivery of the outcome that matches the problem that the data are saying is the thing we need to be concerned about, and then use our problem-solving process to be able to guide getting those interventions, because even saying that is difficult to do without a process to get there.
In order to effectively utilize data for decision-making, we need a clear model with the steps for problem-solving, access to the right information at the right time, in the right format, and a formal or predictable process that a group of people can use to build and implement solutions. This problem-solving process may look familiar to you, and you will see this process reflected in our other videos about MTSS. While each component of MTSS is needed for an effective system, data-based problem-solving and decision-making is the true heart of the framework. The success of an MTSS framework is dependent upon effective use of data and information to make decisions for student progress and success. In order for districts and schools to embrace and function as a problem-solving culture, a shift in thinking must take place. The shift is the recognition that student achievement comes from a collective responsibility of all stakeholders to ensure an appropriate fit of curriculum, instruction, and environment that enables student learning. Effective leadership facilitates the building of systems and atmosphere to support and encourage educators to problem solve at all levels and more efficiently meet student needs.
I think in public education we talk so much about data-driven decisions, but yet I'm not sure that everybody fully even understands really how to read some data or all the pieces that can go into data. I mean, there's formal and informal data. We have summative and formative. There's so much data. We are definitely, I think, at least our district is a very, very data-rich district, but that does not mean that all of my teachers or even all of the administrators understand the information that they can gain from that data, how to read the data, and then what to do with the data. And so I think we need to have some honest conversations, whether it's through a needs assessment survey, whether it's just through open conversations, and be able to say, I don't even really know what this item analysis for TCAP is telling me. And so then we break it down, and we either in small groups through, we do a lot of formal protocols in my building and in our district, and that really helps for us to individually have the opportunity to read data and interpret data, and then in a small group through that protocol we will read the data and interpret it. We'd love for them to come up with the answers on their own, but sometimes they need some support and others to help them do that, and you need to be there for them and help them, walk them through that.
We have to pay attention to how we're doing, what the data are telling us, and we have to collectively own that data. This is not about teacher blaming. This is not about principal blaming. It's about us collectively owning the educational outcomes for all students. It's about the school board, the districts, and the states collectively focusing on that and using the best that science has to offer with respect to evidence-based education and evidence-based implementation. How does this make it more efficient and effective for a teacher to learn what they need so that they can provide the best possible education? We're going to get there. It's going to be hard, it's going to be wobbly, it's going to be waffly, but we need to stay on track. And the other thing that helps us stay on track and create a system is a map. And what's the map? The map are the data systems.
We break it down into small groups. I will look at third grade data with my third grade teachers, second grade data with my second grade teachers. Because if it's their students, it's a lot easier for them to understand what they're looking at. And then the next step is that we do look at whole school data when the majority of teachers are ready for that. But I think you need to break it down and keep it close to home as much as possible for teachers, especially those that are not real strong at reading the data.
For us, when we've looked at data over many, many years, we've asked a number of the same questions. What do you see in this data? What don't you see in this data? And what questions does this still hold for us?
You also, as a principal, need to help them look at all of that informal, what they see every single day, the running records that they're keeping. All of that information is just huge when we're trying to make decisions for students. And so you need to help them understand how we never look at one piece of data to make a decision. We look at multiple pieces of data, and we look at multiple pieces of data as a team before we make a decision for a student. We started with having a PBIS team and an RTI team, and over those two teams we did have a teacher that kind of became the expert in the area, that attended district or statewide conferences, learning opportunities. We have since then combined the two, though, and we just have the one committee, which is our MTSS committee, and the facilitators are who used to be my PBIS and who used to be my RTI facilitators. And so they co-facilitate that. I'm there, and I kind of co-facilitate with them. I definitely think the presence of an administrator is important because I think that shows your teachers the importance of it. But they basically facilitate the meetings. I think combining the two has been a huge benefit. Because we've combined the two together, it has allowed us to look at the behaviors, the attendance, the academic support we're giving them. It's allowed us to combine everything together to determine what the child needs and where we go for the child from here.
When I first started at my school 3 years ago, we had to really talk about what RTI and MTSS type things meant in our school. And so we had a lot of training around that for the whole staff. We also then, through that, invited people to be on a very cohesive team to specialize within that, our problem-solving team. And over the last 3 years, I've really built up a wonderful group of people from all areas of our building. We have specialists that are there. I have a music teacher that's on our team. And there's a perspective that she can bring to that team that others might not see. We have interventionists that join the team and, different grade level teachers. And then it's really about the leadership within that group. Of course, I'm a member of it, but there has to be a really strong lead, and my counselor and my teaching learning coach share that responsibility. One focuses more on academics and one focuses more on behavior. And then that way, they can really bring their knowledge and their specialties to that team in order to talk about kids.
One of the bigger shifts that we made was putting time together for teachers to collaborate every day. We created a database that everybody had access to, and it was an ongoing place where we could go to say, well, how's Susie doing in that class? Well, everybody had access to go and look at our current formative data straight out of the classroom, what's happening with that child. The other thing it did was it created transparency in how our kids are doing in our classrooms. And we had created time for teachers to collaborate, a place where we created transparency, and it really opened up great problem-solving conversations and where we were helping each other, not just, I'm in my room doing my own thing, hoping for the best. We had that time to go somewhere that was safe amongst our teams to solve problems. And then our next step was really taking it to that RTI model that we were really struggling with, because it was that old child study model. Get in line, show up, tell my story, and hopefully someone will come and rescue me. And we moved that collaborative model into our RTI model. We were very comfortable with where our kids were at. We gave teachers, I really gave them permission, and I said, no more storytelling. We believe you. We know this child's struggling. We need to know what is the heart of the issue that you see in your classroom. And then the final piece is taking it, and teachers did this on their own. They trended their data. They looked at academics, they looked at social emotional, they looked at all the pieces, put the kids in and said, in our grade level, we're struggling a lot with this, and what can we collectively do to target it? It's no longer just kid by kid. It's more at a grade level. What can we do to really help each other solve these trends that we're seeing either in our grade level or in our school? So that's where we came through problem solving.
I think it's important that you don't make excuses, that you look for solutions and you problem solve. And I think you need to be able to be honest with each other and be able to say, that is not a strength of mine. Who has that strength? So who can help me to do this? Nobody has all the strengths that we need to make every child successful. So we need to do it as a team. There needs to be trust. There needs to be open, honest discussions, and then look for solutions. There's a time to vent. There's a time to discuss, and maybe even possibly discuss some of the excuses. Put those behind us and then move to solution mode.
I think a problem-solving culture is where groups of teachers in a building take ownership of a group of students, it doesn't need to happen in a structured format all of the time. It bleeds out into the regular day where they're reaching out to people who they know in our community, our school community, that have expertise that they might not have, and that trust is there, and that communication is open so that they can go out and share their concerns about a student, put interventions into place. It doesn't have to happen in a meeting. I think that's what a true problem-solving community eventually should look like.
Problem-solving culture looks like a group of people who have made commitments to each other and made commitments to children and understand that it's a team that will move ahead the children. I think they need to center less time on their own emotional feelings about the situation and more around the students' needs.
I think in a problem-solving culture, you really need to know what the problem is. I think sometimes we're so overwhelmed that sometimes we just really struggle to analyze what that real specific issue is that we can just take control of, address to help them move on. And then picking one or two things, setting that goal, and really making sure we meet those goals, not trying to attack everything at once, because I think we're only setting the kids up for failure and ourselves up for failure. So it really is, what is our problem, taking ownership of it, and communicating with each other and attacking it as a team.
I think it all comes back to culture, and culture from a district level, because I've heard a superintendent say that if a teacher teaches something and the kids didn't learn anything, what was really taught. So really making that decision at the highest levels that we are going to be student focused and we are going to really focus on the outcomes, and that's evidenced by what the kids produce. So until you're there as a school district, I think that everything else is not going to fall in place the way that it needs to.